Greetings, heroes and Force users. Welcome to Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. I'm Alyssa Simmons, and I'm joined today by my two pals, Dino Nicandros.
Hello.
And Daniel Dawson.
Hello there.
And today, we are talking a couple weeks late. We know. Sorry, get over it.
It's my fault.
It's fine, but we're finally talking about it. The three of us all together, we're talking about the Marvel Studios film Deadpool and Wolverine. And by God, we're Marvel fans.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
I am Iron.
I thought they smelled bad. On the outside.
Smells like a new car in here.
Inside the Tauntauns, this is our opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, Dino, talking nerd stuff, come along. Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.
That's kind of weird to say. Marvel
What's weird to
Studios
say?
filmed Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, it's a Marvel Studios.
Isn't that nice? I'm so freaking happy that we can finally talk about this. I've been holding on to my shit for...
Yes, I was supposed to see it in rural Missouri, but things didn't work out that way.
Yeah, it's all
Wonka
right.
ruined everything.
As he always does.
But how was the barbecue?
The what?
Did you not have any barbecue out there?
yes.
Oh, thank
But
God.
also, you
I was
forget
like-
that Dino is from Texas, so like,
Yeah,
he's
I
had a lot
know.
of good barbecue in his days.
Missouri
Sure,
has
but
good barbecue. It doesn't hold up. But
Doesn't hold up.
But
Well.
it's good. It's
good.
Do
good.
we feel like we're a little biased?
Well,
Yes, but also
or
well-traveled.
educated.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well traveled. I've been to all of the places of barbecue greatness, and I'm still partial to mine. So
Welcome to our podcast about barbecues.
so
I'm hungry.
so hungry and hot.
great.
I'm boiling
and-
hot.
You know what else was boiling hot?
This movie?
My
Great segue.
grandmother. No, yeah.
Oh,
Marvel Studios
Marvel Studios, Deadpool and Wolverine.
was hot.
Oh man. Yeah,
But I saw it this afternoon. So
Okay, so
the
it's
idea-
very,
so
very
fresh.
fresh to you.
hours
Yeah, and at the end
ago.
of the day, like, obviously it feels like an old hat to talk about, but I feel like the movie, it is like, it was so profoundly, this is my general thought, it was like so profoundly entertaining and fun, that it, we could still talk about it like weeks later and
Yeah.
gag about it, and it's still interesting.
Well, and it's become $1 billion movie, so it's very much relevant. Marvel
Yeah.
is I think, back
People
in
are still
the $1 billion
going to it,
business.
which is
Yeah.
awesome.
In Disney standards, that means that they could make a musical out of it now.
Right.
And they will.
They just might.
Even if we
just
beg
might.
them not to.
Give it time.
Honestly, though, I mean, if they were going to finally put something in the old Hyperion Theater, Disneyland, Deadpool musical could be could be pretty fun if they could only get the rights to do Bye 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 as
They certainly could get the rights to it.
and also Like a Prayer.
Uh-huh.
It kind of, the show writes itself, really.
Without throwing any shade, I believe these words were said about a certain other superhero play that also went in that theater.
I know
Our friends were
said-
amazing in it.
Yes, they
Our
were.
friends were amazing in it.
Definitely never said that it writes itself. I don't think that it necessarily needed to be there, but I'm happy that it happened and it was fun.
Let's talk about Deadpool Wolverine.
No, that's not what we're here for.
Well, Daniel, you got into your general thoughts, so continue.
Yeah. So
What,
you said generally
Yeah, see,
fun
I
time.
did.
You did it.
Profoundly fun time,
Just
I believe is what you
Added
said.
extra sprinkles with it.
That
That's
was
all.
also I think your shortest general thoughts you've ever had.
You're welcome.
Wow. Are you dead? Yes.
This is turning out to be your longest.
My generals are that I had a great time. Daniel and I saw it together.
We did.
Yeah, it was just super fun. I enjoyed myself thoroughly from start to finish.
How did you do with the violence, Alyssa? I know you've seen the others, but
Yeah,
I know
I'm
you're not a
okay.
violence person.
Yeah, I'm okay with this kind because it's so over the top
Yeah.
that it doesn't feel real to me.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I can separate it and be like, this is not like, particularly the opening number, obviously, was
grotesque.
the opening credits were disgusting.
Absolutely insane.
But it was like absurd, disgusting.
Yeah,
you know.
Whereas Game of Thrones, it looks like someone's head has
It's
been
too
lopped
real,
off.
and I actually
Sure.
am even okay, you know, with like Lord of the Rings violence because it's like
yeah.
black orc blood, and
Right.
I can, in my mind, I'm like, that's not real.
It's
You're fine.
fantastical.
You're fine, girl.
So that's your limit, basically, is it has to. Well, like, what about like a funny zombie movie? You know, like
If it goes over that line, then yes.
yeah, uh-huh.
But if it's a serious zombie movie where they're taking it like it feels like a legitimate zombie apocalypse,
Yeah.
I can't.
So it's really about like human suffering that is hard for you.
Yeah,
Got it.
because I was totally fine in the James Gunn Suicide Squad, which was
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's
absurdly violent.
as long as like everyone in the movie is having a great time murdering people, then
Yeah, it's
We're
got to be
making light
fun
of-
murder.
Yeah.
And there was
I
a
think
lot of fun
I think it's like
murder in
I think
this
it is like
movie.
the intention. If there's always like a wink at the audience, like we know this is crazy, I'm usually
And
okay.
also like so well choreographed that it quite literally felt like a ballet, you know?
Yeah, there were definitely moments where I was still like, "Leal!" But
Leal. Do you remember anything in particular that made you kind of cringe or turn away?
I think when he used Wolverine's claws to like
In
When he
one
gets it
anus and then
lodged
in the penis,
in-
yeah,
in-
uh-huh.
in each
That
of
was a
their,
lot.
It was
That was a
absolutely,
lot.
I was
absolutely wonderful.
howling and wanting to throw up at the same time. It was just
Do you know what were your generals?
so. To use Daniel's word, profoundly disgusting, grotesque, and very surprisingly poignant.
Mm.
I actually, I'll fast forward even past the movie to the end credits,
Oh, yeah.
and the whole movie, while Deadpool has always made his money making fun of things and poking fun at fans and films that didn't do as well,
And himself.
this movie ended up being an homage to all of the hard work that goes into making these movies. And a lot of the movies not a lot, but a good amount of the movies they featured in some way or another were not critically beloved, and a lot
No.
of fans make fun of them. And
Yeah, big time.
even Channing Tatum's inclusion as Gambit that he never got to be.
Right.
It was just such a sweet and wholesome way to kind of transition. I think it was so expertly done, and I can't say I was expecting that. I thought it was literally going to be they shit on Fox and then we all
Yeah.
have a good laugh at their expense and then move on. But it was actually a big old hug,
Yeah.
which I really appreciated. And
Yeah,
I
that
thought
was
was
really
so
that was really
brilliant and done.
special to see all those BTS things with
I loved that.
Hugh Jackman and because I mean this is I think we're gonna see him again, but not in this capacity. You know,
Maybe not, yeah.
Well,
But you could
I
tell
think-
that BTS stuff that was at the end was like specifically designed to like target our exact age,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
like, and make us all like feel emotional. Because I did. I was
yeah,
like,
I was
"Aw."
definite like like senior year goggles
Uh-huh.
on, being like, as we go on, we remember.
What was
I
the
was-
actual
I
song
was-
that they used? Because it was like it
Green
was
Day.
what was it?
It
Um,
was Green Day. Yeah,
It was Green
another
Day.
corner, another corner,
Yes, which is so like that is literally our childhood.
Mhm.
But I was thinking about Hugh Jackman at the end of that movie and hearkening back to the very first X-Men movie. And if he didn't pull that off, his career looks wildly different.
Oh,
If
Yeah.
that first one didn't go well and his portrayal of that character didn't work,
It would have been
he
back
lives
to
a
Broadway
different
for him.
he lives a different life, and
Mhm.
we don't get the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I don't think, if those
No.
X-Men movies which Kevin Feige was involved in.
Right.
If those didn't work, we don't have this grand cinematic universe that we've been enjoying. So, yeah, my general thought was how wonderful it was to say goodbye to one era, but not really, though.
Right.
It was
And
also kind of a primer as well.
Yeah, it was like goodbye and also hello.
I am curious, like to what extent their intention, like what his intention was, because I mean, yes, it is kind of like a like let's all say goodbye to these people and like pay homage to them and for their hard work and like let's have fun along the way. But in essence, it almost like it was like so good that it begged for those characters to not go away. Like, in fact, to like there have been like already Ryan Reynolds is like because I think because of the attention that it's gotten and the love that it's gotten, he's starting to like ask the fans to what do you call it? Like ask the studios to make another Blade film with Wesley Snipes.
Well, that's how they got Deadpool made. He leaked. He
Yeah,
had
that's
the
what happened
demo
because
footage leaked.
they wouldn't do it. Yeah.
Right. And I think that I mean, it's possible. I think that I before this movie was made, I was like, there's no way that that's going to happen. But now that they've got that like huge, I mean, that was kind of, I think, maybe out of all the cameos that we saw, I mean, there were like two that really set everybody off in our theater. I mean, you know, all of them were very fun and exciting, but the two that were like the biggest, like, oh my God, was Wesley Snipes and not Captain America, but
Channing Tatum.
No, sorry.
No,
I mean
Chris Evans.
Yeah. It's Johnny
as
Storm.
Flame on.
Johnny.
Yeah. So because that's a thing, I'm curious if they'll actually follow through with that, because that would be interesting. But I mean, it's just so close to the new Blade movie that's coming out. Like, I don't know. That might be a little messy for marketing, but pretty interesting.
If that movie ever comes out.
Oh my God, I know, no kidding.
But
Yeah. Did y'all see Jennifer Gardner's sweet post about her experience? Did you see it on Instagram?
I didn't see it.
I'm trying to remember if I did. I think I saw Ryan Reynolds, like, I think he did a post for her, but I don't think I've seen hers.
Yeah. So she obviously trained like an insane person to like become Marvel fit again. And
oh, you mean this time around?
Yeah.
Yeah,
big time.
She
She posted, she said she was on the set of Adam Project when they were like talking to her about this potentially happening. So she did lots of training, boxing 3 times a week, 2 workouts a day. And
sounds pretty normal.
Her final thing that she said was, I didn't know that Elektra and I needed an ending, but Sean and Ryan did. They are gifted in many ways, but seeing and elevating people around them is at the top of the list. Shooting the fight was so fun. Being there all together was like a dream. I'm proud of my friends, grateful to be up there with them. Thank you doesn't cut it, guys, but it's a good placeholder until I figure out what does.
Ugh, what a terrible person.
She just sucks, and she's ugly.
Very.
So ugly.
And that kind of echoes. Did you see what Channing Tatum's response? I mean, he was emotional about it. He was like, we've been talking about me playing Gambit for 15 years, and said, nothing I ever do again can top the feeling of finally getting to do something I wanted to do. And I was like, oh my God.
I mean,
and he was such a just like, you could just tell specifically with that grouping of people that they were just like having fun. That
so
it was
much
just
fun.
like,
not collecting
we
a
are
paycheck,
friends and
like,
we are goofing off making a bajillion-dollar movie.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they were paid handsomely, but
I certainly hope so.
You can tell, to your point, Alyssa, you can absolutely tell that they were just
dicking around.
Yeah, and
they were really having fun. So that was lovely to see. Yeah, but I feel like we don't see that often anymore.
Yes.
Especially in Marvel films, because it's just like so much about the paycheck and about what each movie is doing for the following movie and introduction of characters
Right.
for the next phase and all of that stuff. And so it was really, really fun to just see Joy up there.
And I should say that, like, I said they're just dicking around, but also, like, with immense professionalism, because the amount of, like you said, they're all of the preparation that went into doing those roles, like all of training and fighting, and my God. Channing Tatum posted a lot of his
his stuff.
He is proficient, like with his quarterstaff, with cards,
he worked hard.
Jeez.
Very impressive. So that should not be poo-pooed as well. Like they really killed it. I think that they were with the intention. I don't know if it was the intention, but like. Especially it's different for each of them, because each of them kind of got their shot except for Channing Tatum. So Channing Tatum is just like, if this is all I'm gonna give them, I better make it the best fucking thing they've ever seen.
And the way it was written, his dialogue reflected exactly that sentiment. He's like,
totally, yes.
It was so
insane.
I gotta tell you, like the second and Alyssa could attest to this, because like I don't know if everybody knew what was happening quite yet, but like I gasped and was like, oh, as soon as the first card came out. That was like the first thing you saw, the card being thrown. Because Gambit has always, at least in the cartoons, was always my favorite.
He's cool.
He's a cool character.
Gambit. Yeah, totally dope. Which is kind of, really, when you think about all the different, like, X-Men characters and all their powers and stuff like that, like his kind of feels like maybe
Close
not as
magic.
Powerful as most. Yeah.
As he called it, your power is close-up magic. We're not fucked at all.
Right. Close-up magic, exactly. But I don't know. I just always enjoyed his characterization, just like the look, and I love that they kept the look like identical to the cartoon.
The wig was great. The
accent
helmet
was phenomenal.
and everything.
His stupid fucking accent.
It was so good,
It's
though.
insane.
Yeah, it's actually quite spot on.
It's so good. Like, I don't think people appreciate like why we were busy laughing hysterically at him. How difficult it is to pull off a dialect like that.
It's so
which
specific.
Is such a muddle of Louisiana,
and challenging.
France, other obscure Southern accents all rolled into one. It was really, really funny. So yes, kudos to Channing Tatum on.
It was fun, funny, silly, well done, and always
etc.
etc.
But yeah, he's now campaigning for his own film, like, again.
Well, look, would you want him to be a part of the X-Men when they are introduced? Would you want him to be Gambit?
Sure. Why not?
I don't know.
I don't know in that exact context. Like, here's the thing. We're especially if we're gonna use the Fantastic Four as an example of like where the MCU is going, because we're still stuck in this sort of multiversal thing. So not everybody that that's going to be introduced going forward is going to be in Earth 616. I'm actually curious whether or not any of the new folks, like maybe we've met most, if not all, of the. They're still introducing. Because like what's her face, the first mutant we've ever been introduced to so far, Miss Marvel,
Kamala
is in 616. So
Kamala Khan, excuse me.
Kamala.
Sorry, right.
Different from our VP. The opposite.
Yeah, but to have this Gambit existing in Earth 616 feels a little funny.
Yeah, my whole thing is like it was so fun for a couple of scenes, but I don't know that I would want to watch a whole entire movie with it.
Maybe. I don't know. That's the thing.
It would depend. I guess it would depend on the style of movie. I guess
that's it. If it was super stylized and it felt like, because that's the other thing too. Is like the cartoons are like the style of the writing is like super like over the top cheese, but it works so well.
It works well for animated, but we're very accustomed to a specific flavor of live action comic book movies.
Right.
And so there's a line.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, depending on how you stylize things, it can make like the original. Well, I know some people didn't really like it that much, but like the original Watchmen movie, is that what I'm thinking of? Like that was also very stylized. The original Batman movies,
Well,
were
so take
very
this into
stylized and were
account.
excellent. Huh?
I mean, the Fantastic Four, when they are introduced, we know they're coming from a different universe.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah,
going to be retro-futuristic 1960s.
and that
Uh,
vibe's gonna be very different,
but
assumedly.
they will, in one way or another, collide with 616.
Mm-hmm.
The X-Men, as far as we know, don't exist in 616. And
Right.
so they will have to come from somewhere else. I'm going to put a pin
Assumedly.
in that because I want to talk about what this movie might have done.
Mhm.
What
In
have you
that regard.
done?
But I will say, we talked about the NSYNC, just shocking display of violence at the beginning. But the fact that this movie decided, and you can't be surprised, but I was still shocked. This movie decided to take the most poignant ending of a Marvel movie, a Fox Marvel movie certainly, and literally dismember it.
I can't tell you
Have
how
him
pleased
dancing
I was.
around with a dead body. Yeah. for
Yeah,
sure.
I think everybody thought we were going to be super offended if that happened. And you couldn't help but be so overjoyed by it.
Well, yeah,
so
because
funny.
I'm still kind of grappling with it because later in the movie, well, there's a couple times in the movie where that moment is replayed where he's talking to Laura, he's breathing his last breath, and that moment still just absolutely stabs me in the gut. So the fact
Yeah.
that they
Oh,
were
so
able to
sad.
completely defame it at the beginning of the movie as a device to bring Wolverine back into the fray, but still preserve, like, I could go back and watch that movie and it still hit
Yeah.
just as hard. I think that's also very well done on their part.
But it's funny too because I wonder if they almost felt like they had to do that.
Well, he almost
like-
said it. He said, "You're probably wondering how are we going to
How are we
pay
gonna get
homage
him
to the
here?"
end of Logan,
Yeah.
respectfully pay homage to the end of Logan." We're not.
Yeah, we're not. But also like I'm in a sense of like legit storytelling and like trying to make sure that there are like closing all loopholes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like we are going to show like Logan's fucking dead corpse, so you know that there is zero way that this like
It is not
Logan
this
could-
Wolverine.
It's not that Logan.
It's not that Logan,
Yeah.
and there's no way he could have come back. Like
Yep.
period.
Which is
So
great.
It definitely like it, even though Logan already put a very like poignant, beautiful end to it, but I'm sure there's still a bunch of nerds out there going, "Well, actually, like I think that like at this point we could all like go to sleep knowing that
Well,
guy's never coming back."
Yes,
and that's fine.
that point is well taken. And at the movie, when the timelines are restored, this movie actually takes place before the year in which Logan dies. So so it maintains, once that universe is reset, Logan will happen as it always did in that universe. So nothing was erased, nothing was
There you go.
removed. But to your point, they explained it at the beginning. That's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So
And
that's how these two
the only
things
people that
coexist.
could potentially get huffy about that are comic book readers, and they understand the multiverse. So it's fine. You
Right.
know?
But also,
Now-
and yes, you're absolutely right. But these aren't the comic books, and like,
Right.
I think,
Although they
Kevin
did pay a
Feige
lot
has
of
made
homage
that-
to them.
They did, and to varying degrees, the movies have done that, and
Mostly it was just in the what do you call it? The montage of him trying to look for the perfect
yes.
Wolverine. Because
But
it was
I think
basically just like comic after comic after comic.
But I think it would have been silly from the very beginning for Marvel Studios to bank just on the comics, because then all you have to do is open one and you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
You know. Anyway,
Where's the
but
fun
yeah,
in that?
For
there's no
goodness
fun
sakes.
in that, Alyssa. There's
None.
no fun.
None fun.
I don't know if we're ready to talk about it, but speaking on the montage of Wolverines,
Wolverines, yes.
I definitely was not mad at the Henry Cavill.
The Henry Cavill.
I mean, that was great.
It's kind of Hugh Jackman adjacent.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
it's like he would be perfectly capable
Fine.
of doing it.
Yeah.
Fine. So if that
I laughed
is
out loud at short comic book
Oh my
accurate
god! I mean, hilariously, I mean, short, but like comic book accurate. Like that is how he originally was in the comics, which is so funny. But yeah, if they did like if that was how they were gonna go, like moving forward, if that's how we see if Wolverine is Henry, what do you think the likelihood of that happening is?
I don't think I think it's like John Krasinski is.
Just like a wink and a nod,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
It's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
it was very cute.
Like ultimately, I think this remains Hugh Jackman's job for the foreseeable future.
Probably.
I mean, not until he's 90, like they kept saying in the movie, but
No, I don't know
No.
though.
Well,
but
honestly, I can
through
see
Secret
him
Wars.
not because he doesn't want the work or the opportunity. I can just see him kind of getting to a place where Dave Bautista got in Guardians,
Mhm.
where because I mean the way that Hugh Jackman has had to eat and train at
can't
the
enjoy
age
life.
that he is,
Yeah.
he's not going to want to do it forever.
No, I would say my prediction is whatever happens in Secret Wars, that will be the end.
Yeah.
That's a good
think
prediction.
I think he's
Yeah.
gonna carry it through Secret Wars.
That could
Well,
be.
we need Wolverine there for that. That's,
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're not going to
that
introduce
is
a new
critical.
one.
That is critical, and nobody's going to want to see a variant of Jackman.
No,
Just 3 more years of
we're
being
less than-
uncomfortable eating
We're
habits.
less than 3 years away from it happening. It's not enough time for us to care about somebody else.
No,
So
no.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I mean, that's what I kind of keep coming back to is that like if we're getting Secret Wars in like 3 years, how in the world are they gonna have time to introduce brand new X-Men? It just doesn't
it's
sound
not
like
going
it's
to
gonna
be
happen.
brand new X-Men.
Mm-mm.
I don't think so either. I think that
Well, okay. Well, we'll get to that after, like, at the
Yeah,
tail.
we'll talk about
tail
the
end
other
of that.
parts of the movie first.
Sure.
We'll talk about where we're going because
Yeah.
that's a great discussion.
I will say like partly more general things about the movie is that I guess I was surprised that like and maybe you guys might disagree, it didn't feel like it had a like I think people were thinking, oh, this is gonna reboot the MCU. This movie is gonna be so profoundly like a pivot point or like a it's gonna change things, and I don't think it changed really anything. I think it maybe it defined like very like fine minute things, which was good, but I think in itself it sort of is just like a really really entertaining standalone.
Yeah,
Like
I wouldn't say that it changed things. I would say that it definitely like reinvigorated.
oh, I could guarantee it definitely like brought excitement back to I mean for the fans for sure. Like
Well, and-
they still can do this.
It set the table for them to use what they want to use from Fox and discard what they don't.
Sure.
This was a way to tie up loose ends and set the table for something else.
Maybe
And lucky that we got it in such a fun way and not a way that felt like, oh, we're just getting a whole entire movie of exposition so that they can move forward. You know?
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah,
it was fantastic, honestly, because the friend I saw it with hasn't watched Loki.
Oh,
And,
okay.
It's like the TVA. What the hell is this?
But with the limited exposition they did give us, they explicitly told you what everything was, and
Yeah,
even
you're
down
like,
to
okay,
like
that's enough.
Goliath. He was like, "Oh, is that the guy from Loki season 1, episode 5?" And
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
like,
that
we
was
were-
such
you
a
know,
great line.
uh,
Yeah, Eliath. That was the
and Matthew
line about
McFadden,
Eliath.
who played what's his face from the TVA.
What did they call him? Because he was credited as something different.
Not Nexus. What's his name?
Mobius.
No.
That's what-
it starts with a P.
I'm blanking.
Paradox.
Paradox. Thank you. jeez.
Paradox. There you go.
A
Paradox.
paradox, a most genius paradox.
Succession fans were happy he was there, but
He was excellent.
I appreciated that even he served as kind of an exposition supplier in that.
Is he a musical theater actor?
No.
No, it's funny. I don't know. I know that he was obviously like, this is a comedy and it fit very perfectly. But like, he's kind of
He was such a ham.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he was such a ham. Totally.
If you ever decide to watch Succession, you will understand why he is so beloved. He is.
Oh, great.
He's
I
so
can't
You never watched
over
it,
the
Daniel?
top.
No, I haven't gotten into it yet. It's on my
bad
list.
it's bad for my anxiety. I can't do it.
He is so over the top excellent in that show. It's and then he's played Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley.
Oh, that's why he's familiar.
He doesn't look like he's aged a day.
Yeah, he looks exactly
It's
the same.
been
It's like 20 years ago. It's
he
wild.
looks the exact
Yeah, isn't he
same.
from like the quintessential like version that everybody loves? Like, is he's that Darcy? Yeah.
He's that Darcy.
Yeah, he's a terrific actor. He's really really good.
One thing that was curious was that a couple days before the movie came out, I accidentally looked at the cast on IMDb.
I remember you saying that. Oh yeah,
and
we never asked you what actually was. What was the one?
well, they credited Tara Strong as Miss Minutes.
Oh,
and
right.
she's not in that movie. She's
So
not the
is
movie
that-
we saw.
Was that the surprise that you were talking about? That you were like,
Yeah.
oh man, I wish I would have known.
Yeah, I mean, I knew TVA was going to be there, but I was like, what does that mean? That's interesting. So, I mean,
I do want to know what was on the cutting room floor because I'm certain there were. They
I
probably. I'm assuming that they had a lot of Disney Plus stuff that probably got. They're like, we don't want to alienate our fans, so we're just going to cut out most
I
of
wonder
that.
too. I don't know what. I can't speak intelligently on it because I don't know what the timeline of production was on this and like when they finished shooting, as it relates to when the stuff happened with Jonathan Majors.
with Jonathan Majors.
So I don't know if maybe things were changed because of the direction they're taking. If things had to be, I don't know.
That feels very right, Dino.
But I honestly don't know when. Obviously, you can't do that after the fact, really, unless you do massive reshoots. But
yeah, it's possible too that it was just enough of a thing where they were like, this could be an issue if we kept it in, and it doesn't necessarily do anything for this movie. So let's.
I want to see it. Show it to me, Rachel. Show me.
I just love her. She's so
I do
insanely
too.
good.
She's side note, she's at D23.
Sure.
Not the actress, but the Miss Minutes is there.
Miss Minutes.
Doing a little cute thing.
One of the scenes that, I mean, many made me laugh out loud, but when Wade goes into interview with Happy to be on the Avengers,
That's amazing.
I was cackling.
He was so rude to him. I loved it so
mean.
much.
It's like, you were a chauffeur. And he's like, well, yes, but then I pivoted to chauffeur. Oh, yes, to head of security, of course.
Yeah,
I
no
feel
one
like-
quite does charming asshole like Ryan Reynolds.
It's amazing what he gets away with sometimes, I feel.
But then he turns on, even though it was fake, like the fake waterworks, and it gets like oddly.
Well, because
sad.
it's still
Yeah.
rooted. The thing about
In
him,
truth.
which is why he's such a good comedian, is that everything is rooted in truth,
In pain.
Yeah.
in,
I mean,
in
that is
pain
Deadpool.
and
It is
immense
pain.
trauma.
Mhm.
So you laugh at it, and then
Self-deprecation
you're like, "Oh, God."
But I
Yeah.
think that you're exactly right. And it sounds ridiculous to talk about a Deadpool movie in those terms, but it worked so well because everything that happens in this movie is rooted in those two characters' pain and disappointment.
Yeah. Their
if
their
you're not-
scene leading up to the like car fight was it hit really hard. Like
Hugh Jackman is one of the best actors of our generation, and I don't
He's
think that gets
so
said
great.
because we know him as Wolverine, and then we know him on Broadway, which takes a very specific skill set, as we all know. And
yeah.
but he is so wildly gifted.
Yeah. Very,
that
very
after,
gifted.
after this much time, he's still finding new nuances to Logan's character, and he's played several different versions of him now. well, not different version. I suppose this is the most different. This is the different version, but even when the timelines in the Fox universe were all just mishandled and disregarded, he somehow managed to create something so culturally important that I
That he
can't
can't
brag
even
on
be
that guy
affected
enough.
by that.
No.
Like
What a guy.
it's funny, just like his character is indestructible. Like Hugh Jackman has made this version of this character indestructible. Like you could throw any piece of crap at it, and he would pull through still.
I mean, literally, like Ryan Reynolds was laughing. He's Marvel Jesus. Well, I mean, he might be, and two, Hugh Jackman and Robert Downey Jr. might be Marvel Jesus, and that might be very much the reason you see both of those people in Secret Wars.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's part of that's part of the meaning of the film. Of Deadpool like trying to find purpose, and seeking to be the Marvel Jesus. He's like, oh my God, this is my moment. But then realizing that he still is second fiddle to like the Wolverine really is kind of like the Marvel Jesus. I mean, he quite literally sacrificed himself, and not only that, not just, and might be a great segue to talk about this, is I'm very excited to hear what your thoughts and feelings are about it. About the fact that, not Deadpool, but Wolverine is not a Nexus being,
Anchor being.
an anchor being in their universe. So yeah, like the fact that Wolverine no longer exists in that timeline is now ceasing to be. So Deadpool like literally is getting this feeling like, oh my God, I really don't matter even in my own timeline. Like that's gotta hurt, So I love that it's this like fun, bubbly thing, but you do empathize with him because it's like, oh fuck, that's gotta be hard. Like,
well, and that's a great point, and beyond what drives those two characters, I think this movie also kind of expertly deals with the question: what's the point of all of these movies? Like, what are we still doing? Why does it matter? And it's stuff like the montage at the end. It's like, oh, that's why it matters, because we're having a effing good time.
We're having fun. Yeah.
And you can tell fun stories and make them completely over the top and ridiculous, but still speak to humanity and
well, at the root of it too, just like you were saying, Daniel, and a lot of times it bugs me in movies when the character objective is just straight out said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, oh, guys, come on, just let us like watch it.
Right.
But
maybe we'll find it.
But I really liked that, and it is in a sentence what all of these characters are searching for. They want to matter.
Meaning.
And that is a very basic human thing, regardless of
meaning.
Of mutant status, of super soldier status, of anything at all, to just say, I want to matter. I want to be able to look back at my life and see that I actually mattered.
Well, and it's like what Happy, in the middle of that ridiculous scene, said to Wade. He's like, you want to be an Avenger because you need it, but the Avengers do things because people need them. And
because they have to be.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's if you look at the overall arc of the film, like he finds that, like, where he's like, I have to do this because I need to save not just my universe, but pretty much everybody else's, or what it sounds like.
Well, yeah, and equally potent was when Wolverine, Wolverine at the end of the movie, when B-23, is that
oh yeah, the Hunter,
that's
Hunter
right.
B,
That's right.
Hunter B-15.
B-15.
B-15. You were so close.
23.
The
I don't know where I pulled
B-52s.
that number. B-52.
Good old Hunter B-52. Laugh Shack!
But Wolverine, you know,
Lobster.
they're talking about, can I go back to my universe? You know, we can fix everything now.
Mhm.
And B-15 says there's nothing to fix because everything you did or think you were responsible for is what led you to this moment. So
Yeah,
that was
that
a
was pretty
great
poignant.
line.
Nothing to be
That
fixed.
was
And I was
such
like,
a great.
come
That was such a great
on.
line. Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
come on,
Very, very
Marvel.
good.
Yeah, that's going on the list with the, what is love if not grief persevering? That's going.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
going on
come
the list of
on.
really, really
Totally.
great lines.
But now, it is a very, very. I mean, I think out of all of the things they introduced in this film, that was probably the most like MCU affecting things, in my opinion. I think
Yes.
it's like, yeah, it's because it is an overall, like that's a huge deal that we haven't been made aware of until now. Like, like there's infinite amount of universes out there that are all dying because they're missing their anchor being. But I mean, like it's like but like, you know, nobody in the history of the universe universe says are like the Wolverine where they can live forever. You know,
Well, if not
so
forever,
is that the
for
thing?
a
Is
very
like,
long time.
what's that?
If not forever, a very long time.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, let's say that, you know, in maybe Earth 616, the anchor being is Tony Stark. You know what I mean? He only lives for what, less than 60 years? How old was he when he, or maybe
He's in his 50s.
like, how old was he actually supposed to be in the films?
I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe
Up until-
late
up until
40s
a
or
certain-
something.
up until a certain point, they were in real time with reality, and then Infinity War is what caused the Marvel movies to catapult into the future. So now they're a bit ahead of us. But so
Right.
I don't know. He was in his early
But
50s, probably mid 50s.
I guess my point being is that, like, you know, does that mean that like that universe sort of begins when that person is born? Do you know what I mean? Like, and like like once that person dies, then that universe just disappears. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know how that works yet.
that's
I
still,
don't
like,
think I don't think that we're getting into the types of questions that you used to ask during Loki, which hurt my brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that those Earths begin with an anchor person being born. I think that they're in existence, but they, like, when
we know that. We know
Yeah,
that for sure because
right.
we've already seen movies pre Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Is it sort of like, in a sense, like like when so like, let's say, you know, I'm walking down the street and I decide to cross the street at a certain time, but then there's an infinite amount of other me's that don't do that. They're like, oh, I'm going to stop for coffee. And then there's another one that goes and does that, you know, blah, 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 blah. But so all those different choices have created a new branch of that timeline or universe. And one of those, or maybe some of them, became an anchor being at that point or something. I don't know. Or
I hate this so much.
yeah, like at the moment that, like, yeah, like when do they, I guess maybe when does that person become an anchor being? And I've got a lot of questions regarding that, because there's I mean, it's great mystery, because it makes me think big overarching questions, but yeah, it's still so broad that it's maybe a little too confusing, to the point where it's yeah, I don't know.
Well,
like,
so okay, we're talking about this in terms of like Tony.
Yeah, sure.
Do we know Tony is the anchor being?
We don't.
No, we don't.
That's
that's
an assumption.
Yeah, just because he's so important to the
Because
Earth
I'm thinking
616 timeline.
Right, and I'm thinking of what Paradox, when he was explaining anchor beings, he said somebody so vitally to what you just said, Daniel, someone so vitally important to that universe.
Mm-hmm.
We think of Tony because he saved
he saved the world.
saved the world.
He brought
But
the
I mean,
Avengers together,
it could be Peter Parker. It could be which would explain the existence of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire going forward. Which I put it in the bank. You will see them again.
Absolutely.
it could be.
It could be Doctor
Morbius.
Strange. It could be Morbius. It could be Morbius. It could be Mephisto.
I hope
It's
him.
definitely Mephisto. We haven't brought up that guy in years.
I know,
but
I'm
I mean,
just saying.
it
here
could
yet.
be Peter. It could be
Right.
It could be somebody
We just
haven't.
we don't know. But it is an interesting phenomenon to
Concept.
bring
Yep.
into.
Because if it is Peter Parker, then does the is it possible for the anchor being to be passed down, kind of like a torch, or a baton, like I'm passing the baton to this
This is now
new
gonna be
anchor
Miles
being.
Morales, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like if the universe just doesn't have one anymore, then yeah, I a lot more questions to be answered.
And I do think it was a mechanism for them to continue to use Hugh Jackman up through
yeah,
Secret
for
Wars,
sure.
and
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. and Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and
I also
anybody else.
think this just popped into my head because it's a major thing, obviously, in the comics, the Sorcerer Supreme. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, Strange.
and that is technically a passed down.
Oh, right.
Or Wong.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a good point. So yeah, maybe she could be an anchor being that passes down there. That's an
Mhm.
interesting thought. Yeah, very interesting.
Cassandra Nova, who's the villain of this film.
I enjoyed her personally.
Oh yeah, Emma Corrin was great.
Yeah.
And Cassandra Nova is one of the more. I did growing up. I didn't read a ton of comic books, but I did skew X-Men when I did, and I remember in middle school. I cannot for the life of me remember the comic. So if somebody's listening who is well versed in the X-Men comics, please chime in. Cassandra Nova features in one, and she is so unhinged.
I mean,
And
tearing
she
the
uses-
skin off of a person like immediately. Oh my
so
god!
I remember very, very vivid memories of her on the page being absolutely nuts, and
Mhm.
and so I thought that was a cool villain to choose for kind of the anti-Charles to choose for perhaps the closing of that chapter of the Fox movies, and
It doesn't feel like they held back.
no, and certainly not with the crew she was running with. You had Sabretooth, you had Toad, you had Pyro,
Mhm.
Frog,
Juggernaut.
not Frog. Toad. You said Toad.
That was so much fun to see.
Yeah, and
You know what
I
happens
had
to a
only
toad?
seen Emma Corrin and
The Crown.
on The Crown.
Yeah.
Oh right,
And they were amazing.
Yeah.
In that.
quite amazing.
So really exciting to see them in a different, very, very different type of role.
Yeah, super
Ugh.
different vibes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by the way, Emma does use they them pronouns.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Uh,
But yeah, there were a few moments of that part of the story
Mhm.
that I felt it made me feel like really scared.
Yeah, because Cassandra Nova, the character, is so formidable, like potentially unstoppable.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to, trap her the way that they did in the end of the film is I guess a huge blessing, because that is there really isn't quite. I'm trying to think in the MCU history. I think that this is the most the most dangerous villain we've ever encountered. Like the one that's done, like that could have potentially done the most damage by completely
if they weren't stopped.
Yeah, completely destroying like
I mean,
whole universes.
It's fair to wonder because Thanos really, with the stones, only had the power to affect his universe.
Yeah,
unless,
place.
unless he simply didn't think to. It
Yeah,
hadn't crossed his mind to use
Destroy the
stones
rest
to
of them.
affect other universes, but every universe,
Totally
as
fair
far as we
point.
know, has their own stones. So
Yes. We saw them in the drawer at the TVA.
That's
I'm
right.
glad you brought that up, actually, because am I crazy? Wasn't somebody using the stones in the void, or did I imagine that?
I don't recall that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Am I insane?
They couldn't be used in the TVA, but at some point in Loki, did they get used?
Because I had
don't
like
think
another
so.
thing
I
where I was
think-
like, oh, it made me think like, oh, but wait a minute, in the TVA you weren't allowed to use them, and
No,
they lost their
I'm-
magic. But why is all of a sudden she able
They
to do?
were used in a bunch of different ways in What If. Is that what you're thinking?
No, it was recently, like in the point where I thought it was in this movie, but maybe
I don't recall that at all.
But I remember us having a discussion on it. Was like, wait a minute, they didn't work in the TVA, but
Well, also
or they
just
don't
magic
work,
in
they
general.
don't work outside of the universe they came from. I
Yes.
think was the.
But also the magic
It
in
might have been.
general.
It
So
might have been What If, Alyssa, because I remember
think it's
when
What If.
when
Was it?
Ultron was collecting the stones,
Yeah.
it was like, well, he's not bound to one universe, so how are the stones working?
Yeah,
Yes.
right. He's jumping from universe to universe, and why are they still working?
That was another
Yeah,
question
yeah.
that I was like, I'm not sure I quite understand.
Maybe if there's just like, oh, what if they did?
Yeah, right.
That's the
Yeah.
fun part
So-
about that show. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be whatever you want it to be. But so in this like multiversal universe, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the way that the rules still stand is that allegedly they only work in their own
But back
universes.
to I took us on a tangent. Back to your point, Daniel. That she's up there as the most formidable, and
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of power wielded, had Loki not turned over a new leaf, I think he takes the cake for who has the most power over anything, because he's literally holding
He's
time
holding
itself.
He's got
Together.
Yes.
the world easy.
I mean, literally.
Yeah.
If we're talking about Marvel Jesus,
She
We
might
got a
be
lot
it.
of them.
Yeah, she's up there. And I think Doom will be similar in that regard. But
yeah, if not worse.
But isn't it interesting, even as far as she's concerned, going back to what the theme of this movie is, wanting to belong somewhere.
Yeah,
And
right.
like she felt like she didn't even belong in the same womb with Charles Xavier, and
yeah.
she's bound. You know, she finds meaning in lording over nothing, like something to just call her own, as nuts as she is.
It's the only place that she can do whatever she wants and not get like picked on for it. Yeah.
Right, and she agreed to stay there. Like
Right.
Yeah, that's the
like nothing was
fascinating part
keeping
about
her there.
fascinating part about that character for sure.
Oh, that's what I was going to bring up. But the fact that she could have left if she wanted to, and then she ended up doing it with her special,
She was content with being a garbage disposal, basically.
Yes, but I think that was the thing that I was thinking about, because it is magic and it's being used in the void. Her ring,
She
Oh,
killed
the-
a Doctor.
yeah, the
she
portal-
killed a Doctor
the portal
Strange,
opening.
and
the Doctor Strange portal. So I don't know if we ever really got any, like, I think because the void is separate from the TVA, like the TVA exists in its own
Bubble.
plane? Question mark.
on the sacred timeline or above the sacred time, however you want to think about it. But,
So, but the void is also separate from that. So it I guess has its own rules that we're not completely 100%
it is the
aware.
garbage disposal of the universes.
Yeah.
But I guess that being said, I of course I know I don't want to get too much in the weeds that I already am, but I mean it I guess that could mean that if there were stones, if there
In the
were
void.
Infinity Stones there in the void, that they might work there.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I love how when we first landed in the void, to the left of the screen is the Secret Wars comic, just
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, oh,
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
not even gonna like.
in case you have any questions about how
Not
this
even
will
gonna
all be
tiptoe.
achieved.
Not even gonna
Yeah.
tiptoe around
Yeah.
this.
I mean, I
even
was
a
half
wink or
expecting them
nod.
to say this is how it's going to happen. And,
Right.
Well,
I
there
mean,
was
I think
another. There
It
was
is kind
another.
of it's definitely a joke within itself because I mean, like, 'cause as we've seen in every MCU film, like, you look at a fucking license plate on a car, and that's pointing to a comic from, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
So
there's
they're
all
just
those
like,
kind of Easter eggs in there for.
we're
for
not even going to
funsies.
beat around the bush. We're literally just
But
going to show
there
you
was
the
another-
actual comic that we're talking about.
A recurring joke in this movie, where Deadpool asks, "Why was Thor crying?"
Oh,
Yes.
right.
And
Did you see that? Did you see that clip with Sean Levy?
No,
No.
Oh, yeah, it might have been from D23 or it might have just been from his own personal thing. He was like, people keep asking me, and the answer is, I don't know. He literally was like, I don't know why he was crying. It's funny. That's why he was
And
crying.
it's funny, but it also
is
just
funny.
had. I believe Sean Levy when he says that, but it just had my mind wandering because
Sure.
Paradox says it's in the future, and it's like,
Mhm.
will we get a Marvel Jesus moment in Secret Wars when
Thor and
It's
Wolverine.
I don't know
yeah.
they will address. Thor and Deadpool are going to have some fantastic interactions. and I'm
Oh, it's
very
going to
much
be
looking
so
forward-
silly. I can't
No
wait.
doubt.
Can you imagine Deadpool trying to fit into a PG? I think it's going to be funnier than Deadpool itself, sticking Deadpool in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
And-
Well, I mean, if you don't remember as well, they I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one or both, but they did do a like re-edit of Deadpool and like made it PG-13, and
Yeah.
it was still enjoyable. I mean, albeit it's not doesn't hit quite as hard as him saying all the F words and stuff.
But just the fact he's going to be in that movie, aware of the fact he can't use those words.
Yes,
and,
that will be the
that will
best
make
part
it
about it, the
hysterical.
awareness. Yeah.
So
even in
we
this,
talked,
he
we
was
talked
like-
a little. Sorry, what?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just in this he made jokes about like even the rules that he still like wasn't allowed to like talk about
Cocaine.
drugs or
Yep.
cocaine. Even though he still did.
Leslie Uggams is one of the best C-level characters in
Yeah.
any of the Marvel Studios or Fox Marvel movies.
Yes.
Just so flipping funny.
Excellent.
Daniel and I, this is a Comic-Con story. Daniel and I
Oh.
were walking back to our car because we parked like a half a mile away from the convention center, and we passed by this like retirement home, and there
Oh
was
my
a person in a wheelchair in glasses who like immediately both Daniel and I
Dead
saw
ringer.
this person, and we were like, they are cosplaying as Blind Owl.
I was like, that is probably the best cosplay that we've seen. You asked us in the last episode what our favorite cosplay was. That was it.
That's hysterical.
It was unintentional Blind Owl.
Unintentional,
That's hysterical.
unintentional best cosplay of the year. Yeah.
That was great.
So, like I had told you guys on our last episode, I had actually stayed probably 98% spoiler free.
Which
I'm
is
blown away by
which
that.
is
This
a
day and age
Christmas
is
miracle. I don't know
nuts.
how
Uh,
you
yeah.
did
2
that.
weeks of that movie being out, they're already posting. Now that I've lifted my own embargo, I've seen official images that I'm like, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
well,
god!
I mean, it's been a couple weeks, and I think
I
that
know
at least
that.
most of the people that like care about spoilers should have already seen it.
And
At this
9
point.
times out of 10, I'm in the camp of if you didn't see it opening weekend, I don't care about your piece because I'm an ass like that. But
Yeah. But you couldn't. You
but I
literally
get
couldn't.
adulthood.
Right.
Adulthood
Yeah.
happens. But
That's right, making money.
but I was
Also,
I
you were
was-
killing a lot of children.
killing in a factory.
Right? How many children do you think you've killed?
4 out of
How many shows did you
4?
do?
4?
Well, I killed 3 of them.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
3 of
three.
them. And
3 of
how
them
many
are dead.
times? How many times a week? 8 times a week.
Something like that.
You do the
So that's
math.
24.
You do the math, listeners.
24 times 4.
Yeah. Okay. So almost 100 kids.
Yeah, right.
Incredible.
100 children. Great.
But I
Our
was
very own Anakin Skywalker here on the pod.
Not just
so
the
when
men. Sorry, I'm done.
it's like I've restarted 8 times. I'm like, well, So when Chris Evans showed up, and the way they had him kind of cloaked, I was like, oh, we're going Steve Rogers, like alternate Steve Rogers. Like, interesting. I wasn't expecting this at this point, but like,
all of us were in that road.
And then
it
I
wasn't
think,
that.
but
And
even
thank
before he
God.
took it off, I was like, no, there's no way.
And it was just that line with like where Deadpool is like waiting for his
He's gonna say it.
catchphrase, and
He's
he's
gonna
like,
say
"He's
it.
gonna
Flame
say
on!
it."
What the fuck?
So good.
I mean, truly, like to be able to. I would be curious if anybody could actually honestly, like, if anybody is watching this, all two of you, if you were like actually somehow not surprised by that moment, I would love to know, because I feel like they expertly pulled the wool over all of our eyes. I think we were all just so ready for him to be Captain America.
I had whether it had been because of the trailers or because of just what the nature of this movie was going to be.
Yeah,
I suspected we'd see Fox characters.
Of course.
Sure.
I mean, the trailer suggested obviously that we were going to see some X-Men characters, but I was more in the camp of like, oh, Ian McKellen or Patrick Stewart, or
I love that he just immediately said, "Nope, they're dead."
They're dead. But also, I think what's kind of great about that is that they showed us enough from those universes to placate people who want cameos and find out.
Right.
But it does leave those characters in reserve to be used at a later point in a less lighthearted, perhaps in a more serious and dramatic manner.
Well, you're right, because they said that they didn't really necessarily say which version of those characters came to the Void and were killed. They just said that they,
a version of them from their universes was brought there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pleased with who they chose to include. We talked about it at the beginning, so I don't need to rehash it. But like, I think they were all wonderfully chosen, and you get the desired effect without giving away, some earned dramatics later on.
Yeah.
One thing that I didn't notice at first, and then after watching that scene probably 1,000 times afterwards, because everybody on TikTok is talking about the moment where Blade and all those people come out. But in that little like hideout that they're
the little
in,
cave thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The first shot of that like cave or whatever they're in, there's like a shot of some stone thing with a carving of a woman on it,
or the Scarlet Witch.
Yes, that's Scarlet Witch. Like. Thank you. Yeah. And it just made me go, oh my God. I think that they're like that was probably, I don't know if it's the only other thing, but like another kind of big like I think that they're maybe potentially teeing up the idea that when she not sacrificed herself, when she kind of like dies at the end of Multiverse of Madness, she actually like poofed herself into the void instead.
Yeah, she's not dead. I know
she ain't
that.
dead.
There is no way
that they were not going to end it that way.
No.
Yeah.
And so, even if they did, Kevin Feige would say no.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could also say that this could have been like a version of her, or just that,
Well, and it begs the question, because we've talked about Nexus beings.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between a Nexus being and an anchor being? I'm not sure I can intelligently decipher the difference at this point.
Well, I mean, I think that I think Nexus being, to me, like the biggest quality that distinguishes them from everybody else is the fact that they can jump between universes. Like, I don't know if they innately all have that ability, or they just somehow find out, like within their timeline, they figure out a way to do that, whether through magic or science. Now but I don't think that doesn't necessarily mean, I think that they could be the same. like like the old saying that like not all vegans are lesbians, but all lesbians are vegan.
No,
No.
I don't get that.
You're not getting
I'm
I'm basically
still-
saying that like a Nexus being and a anchor being could potentially be the same, but not always. Like I think that anchor beings, they're. I don't think that their abilities
I don't think we have enough.
include.
I don't think we have enough information yet to
With
say
what
that.
we've been given so far, my understanding is that anchor beings don't have the ability to jump between universes like Nexus beings do. That doesn't necessarily mean that a
Right,
Nexus
but the
being.
only rule that we know about anchor beings is that if they cease to exist, their world ceases to exist.
Right.
That is the only rule we know about anchor beings.
right.
And we don't have hard and fast rules with Nexus beings yet.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, true.
That's why I'm just saying, like,
Not in the
I
MCU.
don't think you're wrong, Dan. I just can't intelligently say if you're right or wrong. Like, I don't.
Yeah, we just don't know.
No, yeah, I think just
And I
with
wonder
the
if they're
information that we've
trying
gotten so
to
far,
make-
that's all that I can assume.
And I mentioned in our last episode a couple days ago that I was curious if they were going to use the term anchor being to kind of synthesize all of the loose ideas they've been
Mm,
unleashing in the multiverse
mm.
saga. And I think I am, as of this moment with limited knowledge, leaning in the direction of Nexus being is just another term for anchor being, and that they're going to
Okay.
use anchor being as the new explanation
As the
for...
new, it's a little bit easier to digest for a casual viewer.
I could be wrong. I
Maybe.
mean, they still have a lot of runway left, so
Mhm.
Yeah,
whenever they pick up the Wanda story again, or even Doctor Strange, maybe they can explain what the Nexus...
Yeah.
well, the other interesting thing too is that if they are the same thing, then we're just gonna go down this and like, ouch, my brain. But if a Nexus being that is an anchor being also leaves their universe because they can, then does that world now go away because they were the anchor being of that place and now it's gone forever because they don't exist in that universe anymore?
Are you saying if the anchor being leaves their universe, that universe no longer exists?
Right, because
But
they don't
he's
exist
saying,
in
he's
that
saying
universe.
if they're Nexus, like they can world hop,
Or the universe
will
house.
So the-
universe hop. So
Well, that's assuming like the definition of Nexus being is someone who can just jump universes, but I'm not
I mean,
sure that's...
am I mistaken? Isn't that kind of how? I'm not necessarily in the MCU because we don't know because they haven't really talked about the MCU. But in like the comics, isn't that kind of like how they're sort of?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm
Explained?
not disagreeing with the comic understanding of it. I don't
Mhm.
know. I'm trying to dig through What If as well, and
mm-hmm,
Oh,
mm-hmm.
the show.
if there was a...
Let's pull up marvelfandom.com, shall
Oh,
we?
do it, please.
Well,
I am actually
while
really
you're
interested.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Which from the Deadpool squad is your favorite Deadpool incarnation?
So out of all the cameos and
Yeah,
like,
out of the whole Deadpool squad, the 100.
oh man, and I mean like, does Wolverine count?
No,
you
I
mean
mean
all
like
the different. You
the
mean all
Deadpool
the different
variants.
Deadpools. The Deadpool
Oh, the Deadpool
variants.
variants. I'm sorry, got it.
The Deadpool squad or whatever you call it.
God, they were all so freaking funny. I
Mine
mean,
is Matthew McConaughey Deadpool.
so silly.
I mean, mine.
So silly.
I'm gonna say it because no one. Lady Pool for sure.
Oh,
so
yeah.
fun.
For
Great
sure.
costume.
Which was
Did we get confirmation it's Blake Lively? I'm
It
pretty
was
sure.
it said it in the
Yeah,
She
yeah
was
it said it
credited.
in the
Yeah,
yeah,
she was
she was
I wasn't
credited.
paying attention in the credits. Yeah. Okay.
It was in the credits.
was
She
watching
was
the
actually the
yearbook
first person I
videos.
pointed out. I was like, oh my god, it was Blake Lively.
Well, I mean, the way that she was dressed at the premiere, I was like, if
Yeah,
she's not Lady Pool, I'm going to lose my mind because that was such a tease what she wore.
Yes.
Such a tease.
Who was your favorite, Dino?
It was McConaughey Deadpool.
McConaughey. Yeah, so
Yeah.
good.
I think it was
Daniel.
I think it was the nice Deadpool. I felt so sad for him when he gets murdered.
The sweet man bun.
It's so sad. Poor guy. He didn't have to die. But he did, because it was
All right,
hilarious.
let's learn about Nexus beings, shall we?
Oh, please.
All right,
Would
these
you-
beings, each referred to as a Nexus, act as the keystones of the multiverse and are crucial to its ultimate coherence and stability. Nexus beings are vigilantly watched over by cosmic forces such as the Time Variance Authority and the Timekeepers to be aware of any temporal changes that the Nexi may cause to the time stream and act accordingly. Each universe has one Nexus being. The Nexus personifies the character of their universe, anchors its reality, and acts as its node of mystic energy.
The word anchors.
It has been claimed that no two Nexus beings can exist on the same plane of reality, though this has been inconsistent in practice. Nexus beings have a vague empathetic connection. When one suffers deep pain, the emotion ripples to other Nexus beings across the multiverse.
That's kind of cool.
Nexus beings also have the potential to produce unbelievably powerful offspring. For example, here we go. For example, it was said that any born of the Scarlet Witch, Nexus being of Reality 616, would be powerful enough to stand among the great forces of the universe and rock the cosmos itself.
Rock the cosmos.
Those rock. Although they can be similar, no two Nexus beings are identical. That's good to know. We don't know if they'll use these. We don't know if they'll use these same rules, but these are the comic rules.
No Nexus beings are identical. So, like,
Correct.
if Wanda is ours, then nobody else would be a Wanda.
There, no other Wanda can be a Nexus.
Cool.
Some Nexus
I like
beings
that.
are even variants of each other. Each Nexus being may have a unique power themselves, but they all affect probability, whether they know it or not. A hypothetical ultimate Nexus can exist who would have influence over all possible realities in all possible worlds and would be the recipient of the all Nexus powers in the multiverse.
Whoa.
Immortus had plotted to make the Scarlet Witch into an ultimate Nexus, but she ultimately rejected the power. Let's see, anything else here that might be
That's
important?
like an insane storyline, becoming an ultimate Nexus.
Yeah. There have been multiple attempts to control or eliminate Nexus beings. The Watcher once manipulated the Avengers into capturing a Nexus being called Leonard Tippett, whose powers threatened a nuclear holocaust. Under orders from the Timekeepers, Immortus destroyed. Anyways, this is other, but anyways, those are good pieces of information to have.
Well, I mean, with that being said, I mean, is there also any does Anchor being exist in the Marvel universe? Because I mean, honestly, like you even said the word anchor in there, and I was like, I mean, hello. So I
Here we go.
Maybe they are. And also in that description you just said, it said nothing.
All right,
about,
so
I mean,
anchor being was a term coined for the first time in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Very
it does not
interesting.
exist in the comics.
Very interesting.
So
that actually is interesting to me.
I feel like Dino's prediction is correct.
I think
I don't know if I'm even predicting that. It's just what it feels like at this moment.
They're just
lacking
redefining
other information. I don't.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
could be redefining because, like, they've been fairly true to the comics, like, so far, to a certain extent. I mean, but something as big and like overarching as a Nexus being, you would think.
Yeah, the only definition of anchor being is that if they cease to exist, their reality would be destroyed. So that is
you
the
mean
only
of the anchor being.
Yeah,
right.
Their reality would be destroyed. So, yeah,
Well,
I don't know. I don't know
either. But that is. Thank you for reading that because that was.
Yes. Where did you get that from
infinitely
again?
fascinated.
This was on marvel.fandom.com.
Okay.
It's like essentially the Wikipedia Marvel
For
database.
Marvel,
It's very, very helpful if you're
super thorough.
if you're like starting to read comics and you're like, what the hell is this thing?
Yeah, that's great.
It's
Do
so,
they even
so
like
helpful.
reference like each comic
Oh
that
yeah,
they're
everything
a part
is
of too?
seriously referenced. There's
Yeah.
about 1,000 things you can click on in every single.
Speaking of anchor
Section.
beings and Nexus beings, I love how every Deadpool in every universe has a Peter.
They do. That was so
And Peter is the
funny.
thing that stops them dead in their tracks.
That's the
They're
only way
calling
he's
out
able to
Peter!
escape is that he's like, enjoy my Peter.
Enjoy my Peter.
Oh man.
It was so good.
Stupid. Okay.
Did either of you have a favorite line from the film?
Favorite
Oh
line?
god, it's one of those movies where they went by so quickly.
Same. But there was one in particular that actually like I don't know if you remember, Alyssa, but there was one line where I was laughing out loud like well after everybody else like
I don't
stopped
remember what it
laughing.
was.
Yeah, it was something super inappropriate, obviously, but
Obviously.
I
I snorted a great many times. There were some that was just.
Oh, how was your was there's
I mean,
still
it was a Saturday matinee, and I saw
was
it in
still
IMAX.
fun times.
Yeah, people were laughing. There were still some gasps, so I take it others had dodged spoilers as well, which is good to know.
Yeah.
I actually, a part of me, well, one part of me wishes I had been at an opening night screening because I love the raucous nature of it. It's really unlike anything else. On the other hand, I'm very glad I saw it with a more tame audience because I didn't miss anything. Like I didn't spend half the movie just trying to listen over applause or screaming. Or
Well, it's funny you say that, and I think you should actually, now that you can, immediately go on TikTok and start looking at the reaction videos for the cameo walk-ins and the flame on part too. Like, oh my god, it's just so fun to relive that. But by watching those videos, like I think the part where Blade comes out, like there were several lines where we're like, oh my god, that's what he said. I had no idea. There was like,
and I love when they're riding in the car on the way to the corpse of Ant-Man that he says, there ain't never going to be another Blade.
Yeah.
Deadpool just looks to the camera and goes,
yeah, Jennifer Garner's dig to Ben Affleck was great too.
Oh yeah.
That
like,
was
oh yeah,
so
he's
funny.
dead. He's like, oh well.
They said, oh, we were gonna try to get Daredevil or something, and she says like, it's okay.
It's okay.
I think one of my favorite moments was suck it, Fox, I'm going to Disneyland.
It's so great.
That was great.
So great.
Bringing up Hugh's divorce. I mean, it was just Music Man. Bringing up Music Man.
Music Man. Yeah, there were so many incredible jokes in this movie.
Have you seen the clip of Hugh Jackman? He's on the plane and he's watching the final edit of one of the big fight scenes in the movie.
I saw that video.
He's just laughing hysterically.
That's so fun.
Yeah, you can tell how much he loves.
They were like, how batshit can we make all of this?
Right.
And then dial it up to a 15.
Well, we're starting to hit the 1 hour and a half mark. So you want to talk about where we're where you think we might be going?
We're gonna go for 2 hours. Let's do
Yeah, that'll make people watch the video for sure.
This is part 1 of 3.
Jeez, Louise.
It's actually as long as the film was, almost.
Okay, so
absolutely.
At the beginning, we talked about how it felt like a goodbye, but I was surprised that it didn't actually feel like a goodbye to Fox, and that perhaps they had just restructured it to use what they wanted to use. So Earth 616 exists on the sacred timeline. That's where the MCU has taken place. That's our reality. Earth 10006 is where the Fox X-Men movies, Fantastic Four, took place.
If not most of them.
Yeah. In whatever, I mean, they had a very
convoluted.
Trying to figure out what their timeline is their business. But But that's where Logan is set. That's where Days of Future Past, the original X-Men movies, all of that is
all
in
of the
Earth,
beloved.
Yes, Earth 10006. It was not destroyed at the end of this movie like I assumed it would be.
Oh, right. Like, if we're just going to end it.
Like, farewell, your universe just doesn't exist anymore. It very much exists. And we talked about,
I have a
well,
follow-up question to this.
3 years or so to Doomsday and Secret Wars. That's not enough time to recast the entire X-Men squad and make us invest enough to put him in this big climactic endgame style movie.
100% agree.
So I absolutely believe not only will Hugh Jackman be back, but they will pick and choose X-Men from that universe as a way to introduce the concept of the X-Men, to even, as Kevin Feige has said in recent days, pit them against the Avengers at some point, which is a very prominent comic line, X-Men versus Avengers,
X-Men
or Avengers versus
Avengers.
X-Men.
Yeah.
So I think we're very much getting a last hurrah, and this wasn't it. And that's what I think my biggest surprise from this movie was that it's not this. This
Let me
was
ask you
setting
this.
up the hurrah.
At the end of Mrs. Marvel, or the Marvels, sorry, do you think that Rambeau
Ends
went
up in-
to Fox Universe
She ends up in 10006
Absolutely.
Yeah.
with Kelsey Grammer Beast and
with Kelsey Grammer
Absolutely.
Beast? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's a new
Right.
theory this afternoon. I'm glad you brought that up. This afternoon, as I was just furiously trying to research what I just watched, there is it hasn't been approved or signed off on, but there's a theory that when she ends up there with Beast, ends up in that universe, that takes place after this movie.
Okay.
Oh,
that
interesting.
moment. So the fact that it's in the future means we have already begun to connect the two universes, and
Logan's already dead.
not to spoil Secret Wars, but we have talked about what the premise of it is. The creation of Battle World to prevent the destruction of everything. It's just kind of combining universes. I think we will be combining Earth 616 and Earth 10006.
Agreed. Totally.
Pretty good
I
guess.
do have a follow-up
Yeah.
question.
And then your Marvel, one more point to make. And then the Marvel quote-unquote soft reboot will take place after Secret Wars with the best pieces of both.
Maybe.
And then
that would be very
what they want to
interesting.
reboot. And that gets them out of any unpopular or less popular.
Any characters they don't want to keep using.
They can do whatever they want. And that's basically how the comics
Survival
functions.
of the fittest, quite
Yes,
literally.
Exactly.
Great.
Follow-up question. So, again, going back to our anchor beings, but this is important to the
God damn
existence
it.
of 1006.
Yes.
Okay.
So did they fix the problem because they brought in just some random Wolverine? Or did the TVA just decide, no, we are going to go in and actually fix your universe using some other methods that are unbeknownst to us? Because, I mean, he's not the anchor being. And also, if we're going to say that anchor beings and if we're trying to go on the theory that anchor beings and Nexus beings are the same, can you just replace them? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so because of what we just. I mean, based on the comic definition of of Nexus, it can't be the same.
I agree with you. That's why I brought it up. So I feel like they didn't fix the problem. Either that, or it's like they used some other method to fix his universe.
Well,
or it's not fixed, and they're just waiting for it because he said that it's not going to happen for another many thousands of years or something, right?
And before that even happens, you get a presumed collision via what's the term? The incursion via incursion. Perhaps those universes collide. You don't even have to deal with.
Sure.
But that Logan is presumably going to die when he dies. Like I was saying, the movie Logan is preserved. Nothing that happened in this movie
Nothing will affect
ultimately.
That. Yeah.
But now this alternate Logan exists also in that universe.
He's now in 616 unless he decides.
Oh, he's in 616.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I misinterpreted that part.
You thought Deadpool was in another universe?
So Deadpool and this new Wolverine are now in 616.
They are in 616.
Wow, I need to go watch it again. So he just left his people in the other place? Like, that was the whole meaning of the film, like, saving those people. That doesn't make any sense.
Hang on, let me think through this.
He wanted to go back to his friends and family, right?
He meets with Happy.
Well, yeah,
He
but that
meets
was
with
after
Happy
he
in
started doing his
2018.
time jumpy stuff. I think that he wasn't just jumping times, but he's also jumping universes.
He does go back to.
Am I insane?
Well, wait. Okay, so we might have stumbled on something here. So
For some reason, my brain thought we were in 616.
I'm
that
gonna
wrong?
Google it right now.
My God, this is a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
Everyone fiercely clacking away. Is this an interesting podcast? Do you like this? This is called people Googling things for you.
Okay, by the end of the film, Deadpool is still in his original X-Men universe with his old friends, along with Wolverine and X-23, played by Daphne Keane, who is technically from the future of that timeline, but has decided to remain in Deadpool's present.
10005, not 6. I think it's. I don't know why I said 6.
Yes.
It's okay.
So I am not insane. Deadpool and Wolverine and this new version of Wolverine are now existing in the Fox universe.
So he goes back to the Fox universe. They have not, but he has been in 616.
Yeah, or at least it because it did, right? It even said, like, in the subtitle, it said, like,
yes, it did.
So
he's hopping around.
That's where Alyssa and I's confusion came from. It's the fact he was hopping around, but he does go.
Does
back
that make him the Nexus being of his universe?
Well, but look,
I think that's what that means, doesn't it?
Even though we got confused here, it doesn't change the mechanism for how they will all eventually come together anyway.
Yeah.
But his meeting with Happy, you're absolutely right. I lost track of that. He absolutely went back to Foxland, which was saved, which would presumably mean there's now two Wolverines.
Obviously,
there's two Wolverines.
There's two Wolverines in that world now.
Okay,
right.
One's dead and one's alive.
Well, two, and now
figured this out, or is going to die. Yeah.
Right, and 2 X-23s.
Yeah.
Or at least eventually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's at his birthday, so unless that was her. I don't think that was a separate X-23. I think she was pruned because remember, she says, you gave me, or my version of Logan, meaning you know, when she was talking to Wolverine, she's like, you gave me a chance to grow up.
Yep.
Right.
That is her.
Yep.
That is the original X-23.
The original one, at the birthday party, right.
So there's not two of her in that universe. That is her.
No, according to at least according to Forbes.com, it says by the end of the film, Deadpool is still in his original X-Men universe with his old friends, along with Wolverine and X-23, who is technically from the future of that timeline, but has decided to remain in Deadpool's present. So now there are 2 X-23s. I think you're right that the original actual one is at the birthday party. But
it is her, but it's the future version.
But the future version of her is also hanging out, but just separate from all of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, I apologize. We're figuring this out on the fly. I just saw this movie, so I'm trying.
But there might be other people that are in the same boat. Hopefully, everybody's like, "Oh my god, you guys are so dumb. Why did you even figure that out?"
Well, but no one listened this far, so
it's
confusing.
You're still
for
here,
sure.
Why?
But I mean, I am curious why because they really didn't fully explain why all of a sudden he was in Earth 616, because that is kind of a big deal. The fact that he jumped universes, like not just times.
Well, I mean, now that we've all said this out loud, he was searching for meaning. And once he achieved the ability to jump around, he's like, well, why don't I try it?
But he was jumping times. He was jumping times, but now we're saying he's jumping full timelines. Like he was going through different universes, not just time itself.
Unless we're being led to believe that his meeting with Happy happened that the Avengers existed exactly the same way in the old Fox universe, which we know they
But
didn't.
but it was specifically stated in the subtext.
Right, it
their
says sacred timeline. So
yeah.
he was jumping universes.
Mhm.
Deadpool is a Nexus being.
Maybe.
Confirmed. Holy shnikes. If that is the case, I like that they didn't spell it out, because that's kind of fun.
It's certainly my brain is now malfunctioning.
It's
But
goo.
I think I have a grasp now. Now that we have talked this through. Okay.
Is this fun? Are you all having fun?
Are you having fun?
It's
So to recap, Nexus versus Anchor Being, what's the difference?
You won't find out from this podcast.
Good
What's
luck.
the thesis?
Lousy. All right.
Deadpool,
Well, this
though,
is very
what a
long.
great movie.
Any other
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings?
I liked it. It was good and loud.
Okay.
It was good and loud and fun and
Mhm.
Marvel. I'm starting to feel the encouragement, or I'm starting to feel encouraged by what Marvel is getting ready to march out there. I think
Mhm.
I think the message they nodded and winked to it in the movie. They even said, "Wow, I'm sorry, you're coming in at a really low point."
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
You don't get to say stuff like that unless Feige signed off on it. So I think there was an acknowledgement of what the COVID era
Mhm.
did. I think largely is responsible for what has transpired.
And the strike.
And the strike, and then
This
you know,
movie
just-
actually, from what I understand, at least reportedly, is like also suffered from the strike. It's not.
But
course it is,
Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds paid all the writers out of his own pocket to
right.
to keep, you know,
Yeah. Wow.
which good on him. But anyway, I largely feel like Marvel might be finding its footing. Although that's not to say I haven't enjoyed things that have
Of course.
we're on record saying
We've enjoyed lots of them. Mm-hmm.
lots of things.
Loki still remains as like
Oh,
some of the
man.
best Marvel. Period.
When
Yep.
WandaVision, I think
WandaVision
as well.
was unbelievably brilliant. Yep.
Yeah.
But I think the movies are gonna start to catch up here again.
Oh boy.
But
Oh boy. Oh boy.
yeah, I need to go ice my head.
Yep.
It's so hot.
It's happening.
Oh, I just meant because my brain is
The brain.
Oh, right.
But yes,
there's
I
actually like
swear.
steam coming
because
out of my
you,
ears.
Daniel. Because of
How
you.
dare you ask questions?
I gotta present it because it's the things that haunt me at night.
Yeah, well-
think of,
You also haunt us at night.
good. That's my
Good.
plan. That's my plan.
All right. Well, thanks.
That's it.
Thanks, everybody.
Sorry, everybody.
I'm not sorry.
Oh.
You got yourself into this.
Yeah, this is Inside the Tauntaun. I'm Alyssa
It
Simmons.
was inside the Tauntaun.
It was. And I'm Daniel Dawson.
And I'm Dino DeCandros.
May the force be with you.
Always.
Inside the Tauntaun podcast. Please like and subscribe.